I'm here in the What the World Needs Now Challenge by Australian Patchwork and Quilting, and I'm so lucky to have Elaine Rose here, who's the editor of the magazine, and they have sponsored and judged this challenge. And I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about the history of this challenge and the theme.
We've run this challenge for a few years now. Each time it's a different theme, which is very exciting, and this year it's What the World Needs Now. From the entries and the words, the text that we've actually had come in with the projects, I think quilters should run the world. We wouldn't have any wars, we'd have lots of peace.
I agree.
Yes. It was just that lovely theme that came across, that quilters work from the heart. Even if it was the environment they were talking about or peace in general, helping each other, it was just wonderful to see the different interpretations that came across of the theme. Yeah.
And judging by the pieces in this exhibit, it was quite an inspiring theme.
It was, and it's amazing what people come up with. Some things you don't even think of. One of the examples was the toilet. Everybody needs toilets.
Of course.
A lot of it was like peace being one, the whole world working together as one.
So here's a great example of how one artist responded to the challenge, and I see that it also won first prize.
Yes, it did. This one was very hard to go past because she had everything that embraced the theme. You know, keeping the world harmony, balance, justice, and the workmanship in it is just incredible.
Exquisite.
The quilting, yes, everything just fitted the theme perfectly, so it was very hard to go past this quilt, even though there was lots of very worthy entries.
So here's our toilet quilt, and you know, we're standing between these two quilts that are very different, going from very abstract and, you know, black and white and neutral to very multicolor and lots of detail. How do you end up choosing such a wide variety of quilts for this exhibit?
Well, they certainly are different, and I guess the toilet one had some very interesting reactions at work when the quilts first came in. People would say, well, what's toilet got to do with the theme? I said, well, have a bit of a think about it.
Yeah.
You know, think of all the countries where they don't have a toilet, and a basic toilet would make a huge difference to their health in the country. So
exactly,
that person looked at it from a completely different perspective, which makes the competition interesting because you get the unexpected, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I want to tell you something about eQuilter too. You know that we give 2% of sales to charity, and we're going to hit $1 million raised for charity this July.
That is amazing.
And we are very aware of those kind of issues because we work with Doctors Without Borders and Engineers Without Borders, and that's exactly what they're working with.
Yes, that's it.
It's perfect.
It's just that some of these things are so obvious, but we don't think about them, and occasionally something like this jogs our memory, and it makes us think, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, good for you for including it.
Yes.
This is a piece, when you walk into the exhibit, it just catches your eye from across the room. It's very arresting.
It certainly is. The eyes seem to follow you everywhere, but the eyes tell the story. The story is about this lady, her interpretation. She thinks we need to care for everybody and, you know, show our love for people and reach out to the people who've got less than what we have. This face she took from an orphan from the Time magazine, but her interpretation in fabric is just amazing, and I don't think it's lost any of that appeal. It's just reaching out to us and just telling the whole story.
Very poignant.
It certainly is. You can't look at that face and not feel sorry and not think we should be doing more for these people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll end our little tour of the exhibit with this piece because it's a very special and I think a very personal piece.
It is a very special piece. Not only was it made by a 16-year-old girl, and it reflects that her grandmother with ovarian cancer, after she's lost her hair when she's been going through chemotherapy. And I think it's very poignant, particularly when you read the story. I'm a breast cancer survivor myself, so things like this mean so much more. And George's story was that she thinks we need a cure for cancer, and I think that's so true. We'd like to wave a magic wand. I remember when my doctor told me when I got it first, he said to me, look, I've got ladies who are in their 70s who had breast cancer and they're still alive. At the time I didn't want to believe him, but I have to now, nearly 12 years down the track. So something like this just means so much to me, but to think that a 16-year-old can reflect the love of her grandmother, but the pain that her grandmother's going through in fabric is just amazing.
And you know, eQuilter, as I mentioned, is really committed to giving that 2% to help others, and we have raised over $200,000 for breast cancer alone. And just a personal note, that's because my mother and my mother-in-law both are survivors, so that is something that really touches my heart as well.
Well, it touches me extra because my mother unfortunately had breast cancer at 88 and she passed away when she was 90. So we don't realise how fortunate we are, but if we could only get that cure, and every dollar that goes towards helping support people who are looking for a cure, it's very well worth it.
That is.
Yes.
Well, I commend you for the message that you put forth in this exhibit, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Luana.